Sacrifices must be made! In the grand scheme of things, you lives are nothing.
Not to me. I swore that I'd always protect those lives.
Alright guys, time for the story video on Requiem. In this one I'm gonna talk about all the things that I didn't like, I didn't think worked out, I don't think make much sense. But some of them are sort of confusing, so if you understood better than me, please point it out in the comments, because maybe some of these points I didn't understand, but I doubt, but you never know. I think most of them just don't make sense, because I've seen a lot of people criticizing the same things I'm gonna criticize. So this is gonna be a long one, so get strap in, and I'm gonna start immediately saying why I called it Nostalgia Slop. Because a lot of people got upset at my review, but they probably only like read the title and didn't actually watch the video. But like I said, I think Requiem is Nostalgia Slop because the bad type, because there's good Nostalgia Slop and bad Nostalgia Slop, in my opinion. And Requiem is the bad type because the good Nostalgia Slop takes, opens up, recovers old plot points, but it does it in a interesting way, in a creative way, let's say. It makes you go, okay, that makes sense as to why they have recycled that plot point, resurrected it. But with Requiem, it seems like the person in charge of writing the game, or I mean, please, I assume it was a person, because at times it seemed like it was an AI. An AI was fed something, and it wrote this plot that it's not really much coherent with itself, and it doesn't make much sense in a lot of cases. I have noticed, like there are a couple of cutscenes, especially dialogues, that make you go, huh? What is this guy talking about? Yeah, that's pretty much what my reaction was when I heard those dialogues. So, with this out of the way, I explained why I think it's Nostalgia Slop. I don't think it's a bad game. I actually think it's quite fun. It's just, I don't think it's worth full price. So, wait for a price drop, pretty much. That's what my review was talking about. It's fun, don't get me wrong, but it lacks content. The gameplay is hit and miss in some instances. I think Grace is quite good. Grace sections are quite good. Leon sections are fun, but more hit and miss. I have had my doubts playing Leon, especially on Insanity. Some sections don't really seem very well thought, but I mean, go watch my video if you're interested. This one is the story video. So with this out of the way, let's talk about the story. The first thing I wanna talk about is the Raccoon City syndrome, because I don't think it makes much sense at all for a number of reasons. A huge number of reasons, but I'll only mention a few. It's a cheap way to raise the stakes for Leon and Sherry as well, but I don't think it makes much sense, because T-Virus, as much as we know it, it has always been a virus that was not airborne. So you could not get infected just by inhaling like small particles or anything like that. Otherwise, all the protagonists would have gotten infected a long time ago. Now, the game says that there's some T-virus latent in the immune system, And to be honest, this is something, a concept that also was sort of introduced with Outbreak, because in that game you have small particles of virus in your body when you start the game, and the more you progress, the more damage you take, the infection will get worse, and you will eventually die and turn into a zombie if you get too much damage. If your virus percentage reaches too much of a climax. So you can say, yeah, okay, that was already a thing that was present, but I mean, we don't really know how the characters in Outbreak got infected, to be honest. And that's one point. Second point, if you don't get the antiviral, I think, I mean, I'm going by memory because I don't remember exactly everything about Outbreak. I played it a long time ago and only offline. But if I remember correctly, if you don't get the antiviral in that same game, you get one of the bad endings in which even if you escape, you're gonna turn into a zombie, I think, or something like that. So you turn immediately into a zombie. It's not like the virus stops existing if you're infected, and like with the Raccon City syndrome, and he decides to wake up 30 years later just to remind you, oh, you're infected, dude. You're gonna die. Yeah, because this is pretty much what the T virus does in this game. He wakes up after 30 years and say, oh fuck, I need to kill this guy because I'm a virus and I infect people and I kill them. Yeah, that's pretty much what goes on in this game. Now, and this is one reason. The the other reason, I think, which why it doesn't make much sense, is because after all this time, there are a lot of vaccines for the T virus, and you will think that Leon, Sherry, and all the other survivors in Raccoon City would have gotten any of the T virus vaccines because, I mean, they're widely available. Leon, especially, he works for the DSO, a counter bioterrorism organization. So it's part of his job to be protected against viruses. That will be my guess, at least. And the same with Sherry, probably, since I think she's part of the same organization. So if he's vaccinated, how can he have latent virus within him? Because, I mean, the virus Leon got is the same virus that was in Raccoon City and was a very old strain. So there is definitely a vaccine for that virus, which should nullify every trace present of virus in his body, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. Otherwise, Sherry as well, since she's vaccinated for the G virus. Sorry, if that was a thing, like if the virus still was active, even if vaccinated, she would have gotten infected again with the G virus, but it didn't happen. So that's another reason. So vaccines are another reason why I think that Raccoon City syndrome doesn't make sense. And I mean, yeah, I think this is already enough to to just dismantle this whole thing and makes it look stupider than it already is. But it's not just this. The problem with the T virus in this game is that it got retconned in the way that it kills people, because it should kill people in the same way that the itchy tasty guy dies. So it's a slow but steady decline. The symptoms are different and varied. So think, for example, cognitive decline, increased appetite, itchy skin. Actually, your skin starts rotting slowly. Same thing with your organs. So like the brain turns into mush. Yes, you cough blood as well, probably. So that's one thing they got right. But the cognitive decline, the loss of memory, the itchy skin, the nausea, all that stuff doesn't really show itself in the depiction of the T-Virus in this game, because it's T-Virus. It's not something else. They can say, well, it's a modified version, but it's still T-Virus. It should still kill you in the same way. The symptoms should still be the same, but Leon doesn't experience most of them. And in fact, even the other Raccoon City survivors that died due to this syndrome died like they didn't even turn into zombies. I think, at least it didn't seem to me. They just died. While the T virus, the final stage when you die is just you turning into a zombie. You lose consciousness, and then you wake up and you're a zombie, let's say. So this is another thing this game got wrong, in my opinion. And when it comes to the symptoms, with the antiviral that is in this game, like Elpis, which I'm gonna talk about later on more in detail. Elpis is able to cure Leon like 2-3 hours away from dying when he is about to die. Like, he's dead pretty much. He's coughing blood non-stop. He can barely walk. And Elpis cures him. Which, again, it doesn't make sense, because Leon... But at the time, Leon should just be irrecoverable. His organs should be, like, jelly. Same with his brain, because the virus destroys his internal organs. But, I mean, it seems like Elpis is a magic potion that restores all his health and vitals. Which I thought it was very... I mean, how do you want to call it? It's an aspull. It's an aspull. Elpis shouldn't be able to cure like a late stage infection when you're about pretty much to die and turn into a zombie. You shouldn't be able to cure it. Same way that probably the vaccine doesn't cure you if you're about to turn into a zombie. At that point, it's already too late. I'm not saying Leon should have died, but I'm just saying that he shouldn't have been infected in that way. Like, they could have had him still be infected, but in a different way, in my opinion. It felt like a cheap way to raise the stakes. So I overall think this plot point doesn't work for a number of reasons. Also because we don't really see any of the other survivors. Like, what happened to the guys from Outbreak? There's only Alyssa in this game. And she's actually quite old. I think she was 50 when she died. So how come the virus didn't like hit her, didn't infect her? She was also in Raccon City. She was old. So maybe her like immune system wasn't... At that point, probably wasn't as good as Leon's. I mean, they're both 50. So they should have both suffered the same fate. But no, she didn't get the Raccon City syndrome. Also, what about Sherry? Why does Sherry have the Raccon City syndrome? She is younger, way younger than Leon. Her immune system is probably stronger thanks to the G virus infection that she got cured with the vaccine. So why is she having the Raccon City syndrome as well? It's not explained at all. The game doesn't really explain much of anything. If this was the old games with the old riders, I can assure you they will explain stuff much better and into detail. Even the so-called report that you unlock when you finish the game, the 60-page report, like the truth behind Raccon City. Yeah, it doesn't really tell you much, and it's not really even 60 pages, more like 30 pages, but it's all stuff that most of them we already know, but other stuff is just retconning, which I'll talk about more later. So, Overall, this plot point is kind of dumb. Also, tied to this, there's the fact that, like I said, they don't really show you what the other survivors are up to. What about Ada? What about Chris? Does he get as well the Raccoon City syndrome? We don't know. Granted, Chris is probably gonna be in the DLC, so we'll see. But yeah, it's um, it's weird. Claire, Claire is like the absence of Claire in this game is a sin because she isn't mentioned at all in the game. I mean, considering you go back to the RPD and Sherry's in the game, and Sherry doesn't mention Claire at all, like why? Not even. Oh, I wonder what Claire is doing. Nothing. It's like she doesn't exist, which I think is very disrespectful towards Claire's character. Because I mean, she should have the syndrome as well. It as well. She should have it too. Now there's another character from Raccon City that supposedly appears in this game, so I'm gonna talk about it now, which is Hunk. Now Hank is in the game, and there's a boss fight with him. And I mean, some people say it's not Hank, but I mean, it has his voice, it has his moves. Maybe I don't know, it's his apprentice. We don't really know. The game doesn't really specify. They call him Commander, but when you beat him, it shows that he also has the Raccon City syndrome. So it should be Hank. And he's supposedly dead. And no, his body, even if it disappears, it's because it's probably like despawning the asset rather than just the body disappearing. So I don't think it's anything more than an asset despawning. And now, what I think about Hank dying and being in this game, I think that I really don't give a shit at this point because if they wanted to do something with Hank, they should have done it years ago. They should have given Hank a game. After all this time, they might as well kill him. If they're not gonna do anything with this character, they might as well let him die and whatever. I don't really care because Hank hasn't done anything. Yeah, he looks cool. He's literally potential man, the character. Because yeah, he's cool, he's badass, but he hasn't done anything, so he might as well get killed. And also another thing about Hank, like how the fuck did he get the Raccon City syndrome? He had he had a gas mask during all the time he was in Raccoon City. So yeah, it makes even less sense. Also, do you want to know another interesting thing about Hank? Hank was one of the few Umbrella close, Umbrella affiliated characters which never got any kind of resolution in Resident Evil 5. Because in Resident Evil 5 there's a big purge. All the rankings in Umbrella get shaken up, they get killed. Spencer orders everybody to get killed, and so on. So we don't really know what happens to the soldiers, like the UBSC. At least it's not mentioned in the game. So Hank never got even a resolution in that game. We don't know anything, anything about him. And like I said, at this point, they either do something with him or they might as well kill him. Because now, if this is really Hank, which I think he is, now he's working for the connections as well, but there's no reason. And another thing I want to point out about Hank and his character in this game. Hank has always been humble, respectful, while in this game he is cocky and arrogant. If you remember, at the end in Umbrella Chronicles, he acknowledges the death of his comrades at the end of his section of his gameplay portion. He says valuable human resources were lost. So he's sort of acknowledging the deaths of his comrades in a formal, respectful way. And another thing, in Resident Evil 2 Remake, I think Hank is one of the few characters they got right. He says he actually lashes out at the I don't know how his real name is. I don't remember what his real name is. The guy that shoots Birkin, he actually scolds him. Hunk scolds the guy, the Forgotten Soul, the one that is you play as the protagonist in the Forgotten Soldier mission in Ghost Survivors. That soldier, Hank scolds him because shooting Birkin was not part of the mission. So for Hank, the mission comes first. Everything else doesn't matter. And seeing him actually trying to be cocky against Leon and even giving him a chance to fight back, because Hank has the chance to just shoot Leon and kill him when he's coughing on the ground, but he doesn't do it. And that in my opinion is out of character. Now of course you can say it's done that way because of course otherwise you won't be able to beat him. But in that kind of setup, Hank would have shot Leon in my opinion, because Hank doesn't care about being honorable. He literally let always in Umbrella Chronicles one of his pals, another person that was in his team. I think it was Goblin in the Goblin team. But yeah, in the dialogue in Umbrella Chronicles, it's very clear. It's when Hunk says, "Survival is your own responsibility. This is war. Survival is on your own responsibility." Because there is one of his comrade, a woman that's screaming and saying, "Somebody come help me in the sewers, I'm stuck." And he said, "Yeah, whatever. Get a load of this bitch." And he says that thing. And yeah, he doesn't care about being honorable. He is respectful, yes, but he's not honorable. So Hank, in my opinion, would have just shot Leon in that situation. But no, they fucked up Hank as well in this game. They got it right in the remake, Resident Evil 2 remake, but not here, in my opinion. I mean, at least assuming it is him. In my opinion, it is him, because otherwise, why even put him in the game? And I also would like to know why he's working for the connections. I mean, granted, everybody is working for the connections, but Hank seemed to be loyal, pretty loyal to Umbrella. He sort of had a sentimental attachment, even if you go by his file in Code Veronica, where he says he remembers fondly his training on Rockfort Island. So I don't know if he will just go ahead and work for the connections. It's possible, but maybe not. The next point is the whole Elpis Spencer controversy. In this game, Spencer supposedly gets a change of heart. You see him getting interviewed by Alyssa, but like this creates too many questions, because Spencer was a wanted fugitive at the time. Like, how did Alyssa get to know? Like, he probably told her where he was, but how did the info not leak? There were a lot of people after Spencer at the time, and also we don't really know when the interview takes place. You can sort of guess, because I mean it's probably before his death. Spencer died in 2000, between 2006 and 2007, I think. So it's probably before that. But still, how can Alyssa get access to Spencer when he is a fugitive? And about this supposed change of heart, some people say he's faking it, but I don't know honestly, because he seems pretty genuine in the video. Granted, I think he did what he did also because he didn't want other people to use his research when he was gone. So that's why probably he created Elpis. I mean, people in the game say he created Elpis, but Spencer isn't really a scientist. He is a businessman. all the scientific breakthroughs that we got in the series were achieved by people other than him. He just took credit because he was the one of the founders of Umbrella, but the T virus got created by Marcus, the G virus by Birkin, the T Veronica by Alexia, and so on. Spencer really didn't do anything, so I don't get how he could have made Elpis. Yeah, I know. There were probably scientists working for him, but just just say the scientists working for Spencer, not Spencer, because Spencer wasn't a researcher. So this whole thing that Spencer made a virus doesn't really make sense again. And I think Elpis is uh, it's it's whatever. It doesn't really add anything to the story. It actually subtracts because back in the day, during the Raccoon City incident, you had people fighting over the G virus tooth and nail. Like the government wanted the G virus, Umbrella wanted the G virus. If there was this like information leak going around about another virus that allowed you to control people's minds, you would think that the government and everybody else would want that virus. But no, of course. I mean, Elpis didn't exist back then. It's a retcon, of course. It got retroactively added because it didn't exist back then. The G virus was the top-notch virus at the time, so everybody cared about that. Elpis wasn't really factored in because it didn't exist at the time. So I think this is why also it doesn't make much sense to have this virus existing back then already. Because why would people care about the G virus if there was Elpis going around? Granted, people still wouldn't have known it was an antivirus, but still, they would have gone after Elpis. But no, now apparently it was so secret it only leaked now. But except people in the government should have known about Elpis if it existed back then, because they knew about the G virus. And there was also a top secret project, so they should have known about Elpis as well. And again, it doesn't make sense because it's something that Spencer. It doesn't feel like Spencer will make something like that out of regret. Yes, it probably is just a failsafe, but I don't know. This game likes to misdirect you. They like to make you believe something, and then they just say, "Oh no, it wasn't really that all along." But except that his supposed grief and and the regret takes the front page apparently, and even Alyssa is dubious about that because she doesn't know if he's telling the truth or not. I guess this is something that will get clarified in the Resident Evil 5 remake, which of course will have to retcon how he died. Because, yeah, I'm gonna touch this point as well. Because Spencer in Resident Evil 5 is anything but apologetic. He doesn't give a fuck. He's still experimenting on people till his last day. He literally had people chained in his basement, in his dungeon, being experimented on when he got killed by Wesker. And I'm supposed to believe he rescued a child, an orphan, to give her a better life because he was like repentant. He regret what he did. He was feeling remorse. Yeah, I don't buy it. There must have been something else, but we will only get to see this probably in Resident Evil 5 remake. But I don't think it's a change that really works. Even if it's just a diversion, and they say, "Oh no, he wasn't really regretful." Okay, then but then why the fuck do you show him regretful in the cutscene? Like, it's not like he's gonna gain anything. It's not like they are not gonna arrest him and lock him away for life. If he shows his regret, if he says, I'm regretful, I'm sorry I did what I did, it's not gonna change anything um, about his public image or his problems with the law, because the whole world wants him dead. So yeah, I don't think it's really a change that makes much sense. I don't know why they wanted to sort of redeem Spencer, um, but I guess we'll see in the Resident Evil 5 remake. So when it comes to Spencer, yeah, this is it for the most part. Now, I don't have a problem with the other minor retcons like him being inspired by Miranda, but it begs the question. In Resident Evil 5, he was scraping for his life because he didn't want to die. So you would think that if he knew about someone who had the secret to immortality, he would have gotten, regardless of the way in which they achieved it. Yeah, Miranda got the immortality thanks to the Megamycete. But of course, I mean, that's another retroactive retcon, and of course there was no Miranda. So he dies in Resident Evil 5. Not of old age, because Wesker kills him, but he would have died of old age anyway, because he was old as fuck and very weak. Now, for the next point, related also to Umbrella, of course, and partially to Spencer, the connections in this game is revealed to be behind pretty much everything. And you don't need me to tell you that's pretty much nonsense, because the connection, since it was revealed, has always been sort of a minor organization. Now, I think they have been setting them up to be like the same team that Wesker and Ada were working with, I think. So they are just trying to make the rival organization into the connections, because the rival organization never really got explained much, like who they were, what they were really after, at least as far as I remember. That's a part of the story that's kind of confusing to navigate, in my opinion. You really have to delve into the extra content, because in the games they really didn't explain it much at all, other than very loosely. So yeah, that's probably what they wanted to do with this thing. So they are retconning the connections, being like they are even saying in this game that the connections was the one that ordered the missile strike to cover up the Elpis, the existence of Elpis, so to just lock down the city, to keep Elpis for themselves and to hopefully get it in the future. Which, I mean, do I really need to say this sounds like a dumb plot point? They launched the missile strike because, I mean, the city was fucked. There was no saving it at that point. And plus, the government wanted to shut down the possibility of the fact that people might get to know that they were working with Umbrella. So they killed two birds with one stone. They stopped the outbreak and they erased all the evidence that they were working with Umbrella in any capacity. And this is something that gets acknowledged in Resident Evil 6, if you remember. The fact that the government was working with Umbrella as a business, like as a business partnership, you can say. And so they killed the president in Resident Evil 6 to hide it. It was the family with Simmons that also got retconned into being part of the connections. Yeah, I mean, like I said, everybody was the connections all along, which is I think it's dumb, because it seems like the connections had a hand in everything. They had men infiltrated in every organization, in the government, in the army, in Umbrella, in in the family. Like, come on, it just doesn't make sense to make a relatively medium-sized organization like the Connections to be so powerful and influential. Even though as much to just not even need the permission of the Congress to bomb Raccoon City, because they say there is no actual authorization for the missile strike in the game. Like, how is it possible? Like, someone launched a missile and nobody gave the authorization, they just did it. Yeah, it's very approximative as an explanation. Also, always in terms of Raccoon City. In this game, of course, you get to visit Raccoon City. They launched the missile on Raccoon City, but now they sort of retconned it to say that it wasn't really about limiting the spread, like I said before, but just to hide the virus, Elpis, which it doesn't make sense again. Raccoon City is pretty much a good chunk of Raccoon City is still standing in this game, and yeah, it has been retconned that in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis original, the city gets leveled up completely. You literally see it in the ending, and that's something that's been retconned because a good chunk of it is still standing. And I don't mind it. I mean, some retcons, I don't mind them. This is one of them because it allows us to go back to Raccoon City. I'm not completely against it. Honestly, I'm starting to wish Raccoon City never got bombed, because it would have been awesome to go back to Raccoon City, to a still standing Raccoon City after 30 years. Yeah, it would have been interesting, honestly. But yeah, the problem I have with this is that it's done in a way that they launched this missile to stop the spread, but what spread did they even stop? Because the city is still full of zombies. So, like, technically, even though there is a barricade all around the city, I wonder if some of the BOWs still present in Raccoon City could have wandered off. Like, for example, a spider. A giant spider could easily climb up the barricade and go over. Because in this game there are spiders, just like in the previous games. They actually put it in. I'm happy they put in the spiders, because I mean, spiders have always been enemies, and their refusal in the previous modern games to add in spiders, because they wouldn't be realistic. Like, this is the same team that put in giant wasps in Resident Evil 7 in the holdout, so I really don't understand why they didn't want to put giant spiders in Resident Evil 2 Remake. But yeah, I mean, at least they did it. So yeah, I mean, some BOWs could have escaped, so it would have been counterproductive to leave all those monsters still roaming around. And also begs the question: how are zombies still alive after 30 years? How have they not starved to death? Because I assume eventually they'll die out. We know that they have been experimenting on some of the zombies in Raccoon City, and that's why they are using weapons, which is kind of a fast excuse, because now they are almost all the zombies in Raccoon City are using weapons. So supposedly they have been infected with a new T virus strain that gives you memories from your previous life. But someone is already a zombie, they shouldn't be able to get memories if they get infected with a new strain, because their brain is already turned into mush. So it's, I don't know. There's this weird inconsistency with the zombies in Raccoon City, but I mean, I guess it's done just to to have enemies that use weapons, but I still think it should have done better. Should have been done better, especially with the BSAA zombies that couldn't possibly be that much old, but all the BSAA zombies are decrepit. Some of them, even showing off their skulls. So supposedly they've been dead for a long time. But how? That begs the question. So, and now in terms of experiments, let's talk about the Ark. Like, what are they even doing in the Ark? Because it seems like in this game they have presented it as the non plus ultra lab underneath Raccoon City, which, I mean, that was supposed to be the nest in the remake timeline, but no. Apparently, there is an even more advanced lab that predates the nest, because the Ark was already operating in the early 90s, probably. Actually, I don't know when the nest was built in the remake timeline, but even the nest somehow in the modern games has become a super technological lab. This is a point I've made before about the labs in the modern Resident Evil games. What I don't like is that the labs have all become super technological structures. Like, if you look at the nest in the remake of 2, it looks like the Death Star. That thing was supposed to be to have been built in the possibly late 80s, early 90s, and that the technology there is stuff from the 2030s. I don't know. I have always preferred the labs how they were in the original games. They were dirty, corrupt, and rusty. They weren't completely like primitive. They had some technology in them because, of course, they are labs from Umbrella, are a very powerful and rich company, but they still looked like they weren't really cared for. I guess part of it is because the outbreak made them that way, but I like to think that they also look dirty because Umbrella is a dirty company, dirty and morally corrupt and evil company. So that just just a position. There's the double meaning. At least that's how I've always seen it. And so there's the Ark. Then there's the nest and the nest too. So like the underneath Raccoon City is full of labs and nobody has ever noticed. It's not very well thought, in my opinion, as a story point. It was much more structured in the original games, in my opinion, because the labs were different. They all had a different purpose and a definite purpose. Like, there was the Birkin lab that did one thing, then there was the Death Factory. There wasn't really a lab, it was more like a disposal facility to get rid of the bodies of the infected and so on. But no, in the remake they turned that even in a copy and paste nest. Yeah. So there's this lab, which the Ark, which it's not really clear what they are working on, because we see in the flashback in the story of this game that they were experimenting on kids in there. They were cloning kids, but the thing is, who were they cloning? Because the game makes you think that those kids are Grace clones, but they are not actually. The game makes a big point of Grace being special, but it ended up being just a ruse, a misdirection. But that begs the question: why did Zeno think that Grace was special, even though the footage shows Grace is clearly from the 90s and Grace was not born yet? She still hadn't been born. in the 90s. So what the fuck was he even thinking? Not to not be able to realize that. Yeah, Zeno is a badly written character. Uh, they make him look really stupid with these things. And in the arc, yeah, they were experimenting this stuff, but it's not really clear because they were experimenting partially the memory transfer process. That apparently they were experimenting the memory transfer process back in the 90s already. So these already retcons Resident Evil 5 and the Alex Wesker plotline. Because Spencer wasn't really worried about memory transfer until he was really old already in Resident Evil 5. And in the years pre Resident Evil 5 and after Umbrella was dismantled. So now for him to be already experimenting in the early 90s with cloning babies and children and so on, and also these children they're experimenting on, it's not really clear what they're doing to them because they have abilities that no other BOW has showcased. Like they can regenerate fully. Like they have full-on regeneration. They have Wolverine type regeneration, instant regeneration, which is crazy for the early 90s. Because I don't think even the Tyrant has the kind of immediate regeneration. I don't know. Probably, maybe. The only thing that has that kind of ability is the G virus. Maybe, but I'm not even sure. So, yeah, there's this flashback in the orphanage with these kids. That honestly, that's one of the worst parts of the game. It looks so fucking stupid. With those kids that one are not scary at all. They actually kind of are laughable. Then there's the scientist that is scared. Like he could literally walk away, but he just falls on the ground. He stays there and he gets manhandled by a bunch of kids who run. Actually, don't even run. They walk as slow as fucking turtles, and he just gets himself killed. That scene is so ridiculous. Booger need that stuff. That's probably the worst part of the game and the story, in my opinion. And also, all the kids looked like the same. So there's a picture when in that flashback that shows how all the kids look the same in the orphanage at that time. So, and nobody has ever asked, "Oh, why are we looking all the same? Like, what's the deal here?" Yeah, nobody has ever looked. Nobody from the outside has ever checked in that orphanage. It seems kind of odd. And yeah, supposedly Spencer was like going there every now and then to see, I guess, the progress of the experiments. But that just adds more questions than anything, because, like I said, what they were even testing, the T virus, the memory transfer with the T virus, something like that. It's not really clear the actual extent of the process that they were experimenting with the T virus, trying to go for the memory transfer through the memory that's stored in the blood. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole concept that they try to push in the game. And also, there's Zeno, like I said before, I mentioned it before. We don't really know much about him. He could possibly be also a clone, like one of those kids, because in the picture you see in the orphanage, in the flashback, there's it's all girls that look like Emily, but there's also a single boy, which could be Zeno. Who knows? Because we don't like they introduce this character, but we don't really know much about him, and they kill him off at the end of the game. And just they make him look like a total dofus. And the thing he says at the end, like when Grace is about to unlock Elpis, It's very confusing because he mentioned something about the technology to control others' will already existing, but what is he referring to? Is he referring to the plagas? And he just says, but it's not good at infecting others. I think that's what Spencer solved with Elpis. But one, Spencer never talked about controlling others. Like that's something I don't think he was ever interested in. He wanted to evolve humanity through viruses, but he never said anything about controlling people's minds, as far as I remember. This is the first time they're making a point like this, and that's one thing. And like I said, what is he referring to? To the plagas? Because that's the only thing I can think of in this universe that can control people's minds. But plagas are already pretty efficient and effective at infecting others and everything. So like you can control whole villages with a plaga infection. So I don't really know what the fuck is he talking about. It's yeah, this game is really badly written. This game was written by a tourist. You can tell the person who wrote this game has no fucking clue of the past lore of this series. To be honest, he could referring to the mold as well, because the mold can control people's minds. If you remember, the bakers were actually being mind controlled by Evelyn. So he could also refer to that, but if he doesn't specify it, what is, like I said, what is he referring to? And also Spencer, he said he wanted to rule humanity, like legitimately rule. He never talked about mind controlling them against their will. He wanted to be the legit rightful ruler of the new humanity. So I assume he wanted to do it legitimately, like officially. He wanted humanity to champion him, not through mind control. I don't think he ever mentioned that, like I said before. And another thing about Zeno is that they never tell us how he got his powers. You can assume he got some kind of virus, some kind of a modified version of the progenitor virus, something like that, like Wesker did. But we don't really know. We only know that he got cured by Elpis because he injects himself at the end, thinking that Elpis is gonna give him mind control powers. What a fucking dumbass. And he loses all his powers. So you can assume he was infected by some kind of progenitor T virus variant, something like that. But we don't really know what else. Like, why? He also had regenerative powers. He could regenerate, like the kids in the orphanage. So that leads me to believe he was one of those kids. Or maybe he got those powers like by being infected with that virus, but no other virus gave a human those powers. Even Wesker, which probably had a similar virus inside him, Wesker didn't have like a healing factor like that, an instant regeneration like that. So I don't know. Yeah, and they don't really specify what gave him those powers. That's another thing. This game just throws around plot points and characters, but doesn't really tell you anything. It just poof, either kills them off, ignores them completely, or just tries to misdirect you and then makes you believe one thing and then it turns out as another thing. This whole part about the arc is very confusing. Like I said, it's a mess. I think if I have to be like real, I think it would have been more would have made more sense if there was another lab. Like if we're really going this, if you really gonna go this way, would have been more interesting and made more sense if there was a lab inside, actually underneath the Spencer mansion, like not just the lab we know about in Resident Evil 1, another even more secret lab that only Spencer and a few others knew about underneath the mansion. So an extra layer, another lab underneath the Arclay lab. Because I mean, like I said, Raccoon City in this universe, in the remake timeline, is full of labs underground in Raccoon City. So it just doesn't make sense as a whole. Plus, like I said before, this wall regeneration thing, it's a complete mess and sort of retcons the importance of other viruses, because if you really think that some kind of virus that will give you instant regeneration and didn't turn you into a deformed monster was a thing, they will have I don't know, they will have cared about the G virus. The whole thing about the G virus was that it gave you almost immortality. That was the big thing. Its big problem was that it made you lose your mind, it made you uncontrollable. But the big ploy, the big push was that it gave you near immortality. That's what Spencer was really after as well. So for them to have the T virus in the 90s, before even the G virus was a thing, give you full on regeneration. Yeah, that's just bad writing. Plus, it makes me laugh when Leon at the end says that he didn't shoot Emily's vital organs. Like, dude, you literally shot the Emily's friend, like Marie, the girl, the monster who stalks you in the game. Leon literally blows her brains out with the Requiem, and you can see her brain regenerates. Like, I don't think any BOW um, can do something like that. Regenerate their fucking brains once you explode them. None of them, not even the Tyrant for sure cannot do that. William Birkin, when he became a G monster, yeah, sort of cool. He actually grew a second head because the first one was not allowing the virus to take over completely. So the virus decided to say fuck him and just grow another head to strip control over the first one. And yeah, I mean, it's a plot point that doesn't really make sense. Retcons years of development. Now the G virus. What was the point of the G virus? What was the point of Spencer being interested in the G virus? So much so that he sent a UBCS team to retrieve it. Same with the government. Why would they care about something like that? Yeah, it doesn't really. To be honest, like to be fair, Leon doesn't see like Marie regenerate her brain, but Grace does. So it's weird how she will be surprised that Emily maybe will be fine, considering that her friend is able to regenerate. They both turn into monsters, so it's like it's not so wild. It's not out of the blue to assume that both Marie and Emily could regenerate. But I guess she doesn't think about that. But yeah, I just think it's funny. Like, she's worrying about the girl, the Emily being fine, but you literally saw her friend regenerate her brain. So yeah, it's probably an Odin burger. Also, another thing I want to point out at the end about this whole remake timeline, I call it that because how do we want to call it? Is that in this timeline, in the remake 3 timeline as well, so remake 3 and this one in this game, They made it so that the Nemesis Parasite, because Victor at the end also gets himself a Nemesis Parasite. They make it so like the Parasite turns you into a giant monster. Even Nemesis in the Resident Evil 3 remake turns into a giant monster. Like pretty much there's no difference between Birkin and Nemesis in terms of final transformation, you can say. When he's in the train, Birkin becomes a giant blob of mass of meat, and same Nemesis in the remakes. But the thing is, the Nemesis Parasite shouldn't be able to do that. The Nemesis Parasite is just a parasite, yeah, that enhances your durability, and it can maybe make you a little bit more stronger and durable, but it just doesn't turn you into a giant mass of meat like it does in the remake timeline. Its only purpose was to limit the loss of intelligence of the person it latched onto, I mean, of the creature it latched onto, and that's why Nemesis is smarter than the average tyrant. So it sort of acts as a palliative towards its host, so that even if the virus causes the loss of intelligence, the parasite sort of makes up for it. So again, Nemesis in Resident Evil 3 remake becoming a giant meat monster, and even Victor in this game become. Actually, they recycled the Resident Evil 3 remake boss fight. The final boss fight is recycled in this game. So yeah, that's another thing that's kind of shameful. It plays better than probably than Resident Evil 3 remake in terms of boss, but it's still the same fucking boss fight. It's being recycled. Like another thing on top of my mind, the assassin that kills Alyssa, that's clearly a zombie. Like you're telling me that a zombie took orders from Gideon to retrieve a Grace? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Like they don't explain anything in this game. Anything. The report that it gives you, the game gives you at the end, supposedly written by Grace, is terrible. It doesn't explain anything. Honestly, I really miss the old Resident Evil writing. Back in the day, the story makers of this series will explain most of the plot points. And if they didn't, they will actually release valuable reports. Like, remember the Wesker report? When Remake 1 came out? There was some sort of recap, plus new info, plus some clarifications about the current events, past events in the series. But nowadays they don't really do that kind of stuff anymore. It's all very loosely explained, almost as if they don't really give a fuck about the story. Because I mean, most people don't give a fuck about the story in Resident Evil anymore, so they might as well stop caring in that sense. But yeah, this is mostly it. Then there's other minor things, like for example, in Raccoon City they added a metro section, like an underground metro, a metro system, a metro infrastructure. So sort of like the one in New York. I mean, the metro, a set of trains underground, which was another thing in Raccoon City. As far as I remember, it was another thing in Raccoon City. In the original timeline, if you play Resident Evil 3, there was no mention of a metro underground being in there. In fact, they actually say that they have a cable car, like a tram system. They make a big deal out of it in Resident Evil 3. Because I mean, it's a very small town. 100,000 people is not that much of a big city, so I don't think they will even need a metro system. But for some reason, they've put in a metro system, so they can have a section where you go through the metro in Raccoon City to pander even more to the Last of Us crowd. I don't know. But in terms of the characters writing, I've mentioned most of what I think in my review, in the game review. But it's still the same thing. I don't like this version of Leon. He comes off as dishonest to me, like he doesn't actually believe what he says. So I can't take him seriously. Grace is okay, but I think she's just a bit too tryhard in the way they made her a complete and total shut-in and lacking in social skills. I mean, the girl got a job at the FBI. If she was a total dumbass and socially awkward, how did she pull it off? So yeah, it does. I understand what they were going for, but you can make someone a bit of a nerd without overdoing it, like they did in this game. Because I mean, yeah, you can make someone shy, like for example Rebecca was, but Rebecca was not totally clueless when it came to social situations, while Grace instead is. She stutters a lot, and I mean, you can say that's okay. It's okay, but she gets startled even by minor things. So working at the FBI is kind of actually it is a tough, taxing job. So how did she manage to last until now, working as a data analyst at the FBI? It's not a normal easy desk job. I think it's probably more stressful. But yeah. And one last thing I want to mention is that it was kind of funny on Twitter. People were going crazy or discussing Wu Leon's wife is in this game because he has a ring. Honestly, you shouldn't care about the stuff, because if the person writing the story doesn't want you to see Leon's wife, if he has one, because we don't even know exactly if that's a marriage ring or a promise ring or something like that, but whatever, that's beside the point. If his wife doesn't appear in the story, then it doesn't matter who she is, because it's not gonna play out in the story, because they don't even tell you she has a wife. So like get a grip, people. The shippers need help. It's sadly mostly the girls who fall into this trap. So yeah, just don't do that. I mean, you want to care about the story, sure, I agree, but don't waste energy on this kind of stupid stuff, because the shipping doesn't really add anything, especially if they don't even tell you who is married to. So, but yeah, I mean, I said almost everything. I think you let me know what you think about the story of this game. Hope you watch all the video, even if there's a lot of rambling. But I mean, that's what I do. And but yeah, I mean, same stuff, usual stuff. Like, subscribe, and all that nice stuff. Thank you again for subscribing, watching, and all that stuff. Also comment, because that helps a lot, I've noticed in my last video. But yeah, next videos, I don't know what I'll talk about, we'll see. But yeah, this is it for now. Catch you soon, and bye bye.